Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Terrestrial Material, where we talk about the material us terrestrials are interested in. This is episode 12, which, believe it or not, marks 3 months of us being a channel and having these shows, which we're obviously very proud of and very happy to have everybody be here. I guess we see Sapphire out there. Alien Attic is nice enough to join us here tonight. So it's good to see you guys. We have a special show tonight. We've got a really cool guest. We got Nick from the Cosmic Twilight, and this episode is called Basking in the Cosmic Twilight because that's what we're going to be doing. He's got a new channel, and he's talking about German Nazi UFO technology. It's very, very, very interesting stuff. A part of ufology that me and French as well have not taken a giant time of looking into. So we're extremely excited to have them on. Give us a really great show. Now, I want to do a little bit of a disclaimer here at the beginning. We have a lot of photos, a few videos that we want to go over throughout the presentation, but it might be a little bit of lag time in between each photo because I have to pull them over manually. So stay with us. There's a little bit of technical behind the scenes that's going to be going on, but trust me, it'll be worth the wait and you guys will really enjoy yourself. So without further ado, let's get over to our favorite co-host and our really wonderful guest, Nick. Hey boys, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad.
Oh, I can't hear Nick. Nick, are you muted still?
Sorry, my bad. I was muted. Yeah, thanks for having me back, boys. Yeah, cheers.
No, we're more than happy to, man. We're been looking forward tonight for probably 2 weeks, to be quite honest with you. I mean,
yeah.
I know you're just getting like your channel started, so I mean, if you wanted to let everybody know, like, what's motivated you to start this channel, and what are you really all about here?
Yeah, so my channel is the Cosmic Twilight, and my channel really deals with the Nazi flying saucer programs. I'm going to divulge into other sort of subjects as well, like ghosts and UFOs, but I really want to focus on the Nazi flying saucer program because not a lot of people has done into a deep dive into the subject because it's not straightforward and nothing really makes sense. It's all convoluted, sort of misinformation. So my channel really is to break everything down section by section in chronological order by timeline so people can actually understand this very controversial and mad subject of Nazi flying saucers. I know it sounds mad, doesn't it? Every time I speak to anybody about Nazi flying saucers, they go, what? Whatever the hell are you talking about? Talking a load of rubbish, and they tend to ignore me and walk out. So that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
So,
I guess like trying to get people to listen to UFOs even nowadays, still with the stigma that's still there, it's tough enough. You know, you throw the Nazis involved in there too. It's you're kind of doubling
the
down.
conversation is over.
Yeah, you're kind of doubling down on it at that point.
Yeah. So to make me not sound like a madman, so I'm going to break things down in a chronological order, so a bit more sense into it. So because they sort of did build flying saucers and not the ones we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. Well, was there a moment in time, like maybe it was just like a moment where in ufology at all that really drew you into this topic, like something that went on during those times?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to do a shout out to my parents. They're a conspiracy theorist. My dad is a big UFO nut, and he has everything about UFOs has been imprinted in my mind since I was a kid. X-Files, Arthur C. Clarke. We've got something called Strange But True. This is like a UK program. So all that sort of topic was. I can always remember it as a kid. It actually kind of feels nostalgic, really, when I think about it now. So I didn't take UFOs seriously until I was about a teenager. I mean, I went to music college around about 2006-07, and that's when I really got into the UFOs. And there was this DJ, I can't remember what his name was, and he was saying, have you heard about these UFOs and Nazi flying saucers? And he was the only guy in music college who can speak about flying saucers and UFOs and stuff like that. And he's the one that really got me into it. And we were looking at photographs and truly believing that the Germans had created something absolutely fantastic. Obviously I've changed my mind, got a bit of a flip-flop, since I've gone back and forth with research. So really, yeah, I mean, I haven't taken it seriously, back then, but since the past 10 years, I started to really go into it because I just thought nothing really makes sense with this conspiracies. Now I'm talking about the internet, the information on the internet. So my research has been buying all these selection of books over the years to really find the original stories of where the program originated from.
Yeah, I mean, incredible resources that you have. I mean, I never even heard somebody have the book kind of books and stockpile that you have on this whole topic of
Yeah.
Nazis and flying saucers. Would you be comfortable? Is there a roundabout number that you think you've spent on all those books that you could maybe tell us?
Well, if my missus isn't listening, I know she's in
Yeah.
the other room not listening, it must be well over £1,000.
Okay.
Well over 1,000, and I'm still buying books, so that's just adding up to the numbers, boys. It's not looking good. But if you're gonna do the research and dig the dirt, like my mum says, you want to know the truth, you dig the dirt, and what I've been doing, and I started to have a good, clearer picture. I mean, I'm not saying that the internet is bad information. I mean, there's a lot of disinformation on the internet. But for me, when it comes to Nazi flying saucers, I had to go back into the National Archive. Well, let's say National Archive. This is like where the stories originated from. Because bear in mind, these books came out 50s, 60s, 70s, and there was no internet back then. And what did you do? Go to a library and buy books. So that's my main, I won't say philosophy, but my main line of research of what I've been doing. So
Yeah.
I've got about well over 40 books. I only got half of them here on my desk, which have all like got labels and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's coming close to £2,000, I think, probably. I don't know.
Wow.
I'll do some calculations. Yeah, it's weird. But I went into the research because I find it fascinating. I find the whole UFO subject fascinating, and Nazi flying saucers. Oh, good old conspiracy theory. That's right up my street.
Is there a part about the Nazi part that really sticks out to you? Because I mean, are you buying like other books as part of the phenomenon, like other UAP, UFO, whatever you want to call them nowadays? Are you getting those too, or is it mostly just the Nazi side of it?
I'm buying all books from all walks of life. I mean, I'm getting a book from Finland that's coming up soon, which talks about the flying saucer program. So a lot of books here from America, Germany, England, and I'm starting to branch out to other sources. And it's difficult to find these books, mine, because these are out of print, you know. So I'm doing the research and thinking, oh, right, this information has come from this book. And then end up going on the internet to find that book. And that leads me to something else and then to something else. So the search continues. I think I'm going to continue down the line for probably many, many years. So I thought I'm more or less like scratching the surface, really.
You got to do the research to be able to do the research. Kind of a thing,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
boy, yeah. No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I would say before we kind of get going with what you really want to show us tonight, which is incredible photos, and from the time I've been able to look at it, it's really, really interesting stuff. How long has this been that you've been amassing this pile? Has it been 5 years, 10 years? I mean, where are you at on that? Do you know? Can you remember at least?
About before I met the missus, so that's probably over 10 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I kept all this research, a secret from the missus. After like I've been with her for about over 10 years now, about 11 years, and around about the 6-year mark, I was like, yeah, these UFOs and stuff like that. She's going, like what's going on here? Like, where did this come from? So, yeah, I would say about a good steady 10 years of me really doing a good research into it.
Yeah. So good piece of advice there, guys. Don't bring up the German bell on the first date. Probably not a good idea.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I completely. Well, I mean, we've got, like I mentioned, an absolute ton of these photos and everything that we want to end up going over here. Let me move this over and we'll get this shared so that everybody can kind of start the process here. Because boy, oh boy, guys, he emailed me. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you. 84 photos. And I also have, I don't know, probably 2, maybe 3 videos, if I'm remembering right.
About 2 clips.
Okay.
I kept the clips steady, but yeah, the photos, you can have it.
No, I understand completely.
But before you show the first photo, I've got to make this clear when it comes to this conspiracy.
Yeah.
Now I've broke it down into sections, and what over the process of this show is going to be is me going through chronological order. So we're going to go through some honorable mentions of flying saucers, then we go to the turbine-driven aircraft side, and then we go into the Foo Fighters, and then we go into the esoteric side, the Vril Society, the Maria Orsic, her gorgeous 6 beautiful blonde-haired sisters. That's going to be a hell of a laugh, that is. And then we're going to move on, probably like Operation Paperclip and what happens after the war. So it's going to be a lot to take in, man. So, but yeah, it's broken things up for you guys to understand. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, you'll have a clearer picture of what this subject is. So
Yeah.
if we're going to bring up the first photograph, the first photo.
All right. And this is photo number 1. And in my list. Now, if my list is a little weird here, tell me what you're seeing is correct.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Photo
Okay,
number 1.
so this is just an honorable mention. Okay, so this is not specifically the German flying saucer program, but there are some inventors that alludes to the program. So this guy's name is called Victor Schauberger. He's an Austrian forest caretaker, naturalist, philosopher, and inventor. He was born in Austria in the early 19th century, and with his family worked in the forest basically. And he was fascinated how trout, the fish trout, managed to go upstream.
Yeah.
And what he found out by looking at water, and how, if you imagine you've got a rock and you've got water flowing over, the water's not going to do this. It actually does like a spiral effect. And
Okay.
what happens is that trout managed, the trout fish,
Yeah.
managed to literally pour themselves upstream. And what they're using is that sort of that spiral motion to push themselves upstream. Now he took that almost vortex spiral and put it into a working device. So if you put picture number 3, and this is a device that he created in 1934. Now he met Hitler in 1935, so he would have been Vice Chancellor at the time, and he wanted to create new weaponry, new types of methods of propulsion, and this here is called a repulsive. And what this disc is got it basically pushes water into this cylinder, and it can actually end up levitating. That's the idea behind it.
That's cool. Yeah.
So this was created before World War II. So this is 1936 sort of time period. This is what Victor Schauberg was working with the Germans at the time, which obviously were the Nazis at the time.
Yeah.
If you pop into photo number 2, so that circle cylinder, I'm going to show you what it looks like inside in a minute. But this is Victor Schauberger's inventor. That's his home. It's what do you call it? It's basically his home generator. He can basically power his home by this generator. And this is what 1920s. So that's just using water, the vortex of water, to actually, we call it implosion. So we're not using explosion, which is basically, what car engines and rocket propulsion systems.
Right.
This is implosion. So it's what he would describe harmonizing with nature, basically. So you're not really harming the environment. You're using like a clean source of energy. So this is one of his inventions that he made, his home generator.
Wow.
If you pop into go to number 6, ice cream. I'm going to show you what this device, circular device, looks like. Almost looks like a flying saucer. Now take this photograph with a pinch of salt. Could you zoom in a little bit?
Let me see. Sometimes it gives me the zoom in, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if it is Control Plus. This way. Yeah, I can zoom in.
If not, I think.
Yeah, I got it. Can you see that better?
Okay, sweet. Oh, brilliant. Yeah,
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Take this with a very pinch of salt. That flying saucer, we're going to get to that later. Ignore that, please, for God's sake, ignore that. And ignore that second photo. So the 2 bottom photos, ignore it. Right. Those that is fake.
Got it.
So those photographs at the top, those 3 ones. So the one at the top left on the far right, that's the actual device he created. Now there was the actual device on top of that, which almost looks like a flying saucer.
Yeah, it does.
And so the idea is that the inside of this, the saucer will actually spin at such a rapid rate, it will actually vertically take off. Some say it actually lifted off and went through the roof. That was some like alleged stories of actually being tested. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, man.
Yeah.
But so this is what the device looked like. But if you skip to photograph number 7, this is what the device looks like now It's in a history museum in Austria. A whole museum is dedicated to Victor Schauberger and his spiral methods and his implosion, and it's basically his whole philosophy
One
into
second, one
this.
second. This is zoomed in over here on this, and it's not one to back out. So it's
So Victor Schauberger is quite interesting. He's not necessarily in with the Nazi flying saucer program, but he developed some sort of flying disc. He definitely did it because we have the proof of it.
wait. What photo number did you say again?
Number 7, please.
Okay, number 7.
So if you're in Austria, you can check out the Victor Schauberger Museum. I think his grandson is now taking it over.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so he's more or less keeping his sort of philosophy alive.
Where did those go?
But
yeah, you keep talking. I'm looking for this really quick. I had it. Now it's
That's right. But yeah, he's very interesting. But a lot of his philosophy is actually gone, to be honest with you, because it deals with alternative methods of propulsion.
Okay,
And,
hold
you
on.
know,
I got
the
him
power,
back. I got him back. Yeah, 7. Okay, here we go.
The powers that be don't like that. There you go, guys.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
it. So
sorry,
that's it
buddy.
now.
Sorry.
No worries, man. No, it's gonna be a bit tricky, but all good. I'll skip some photographs while I was going along. So here it is, guys. This is this actual device. This is the original device. There's something missing. There's a little canopy that goes on top, right in the center. They cannot find it anywhere. So if you put that canopy on top of that, it looks like a flying saucer. They don't want to test it full speed because the fear of it actually breaking. But when you take the actual canopy up, you see all these vertical spiral effects, and it's basically using water to power this device to make it levitate. So that's what Victor Schauberger dealt with. So he definitely dealt with sort of alternative methods of propulsion. But bear in mind, in the 30s, especially mid-30s, the Nazi Party were looking for new technology, new weaponry, aircraft, and they were really advancing because the Treaty of Versailles was really scrapped. I mean, Hitler didn't really give a shit. He was like, nope, we're going to do our own thing. And they would put any sort of resources into creating new technology. And this is one of them. I don't know what happened. I mean, Victor Schauberger went to Texas in the 50s and he died with absolutely nothing to his name. He was actually ripped off by American companies, especially I think it was the military complex that really done him over. So a bit of a sad story. I mean, a lot of these inventors that created alternative methods of propulsion always end up like dead or, penniless and all that sort of stuff. Yep. So yeah, that's just Victor Schauberger out of the way. So if you want to go into that clip, Ice Cream, clip number, it says number 8.
Is it this clip?
No, the other one.
You have to give me a second to grab the other one.
That's right, man. So this clip here I'm going to show you, this is just a background to what I'm going to be talking about now. Now, this is going to be the flying saucers that were developed in World War II. Now, you're probably thinking anti-gravity. We're not going to go there yet. We're going to go into the turbine-driven aircraft. Now, this clip here has a few people that were involved in the program. Bit sketchy when it comes to the timeline here. I need to really double-check a few things here, but we'll go for the clip and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
Saucers do exist, but they don't come from outer space. They come from Earth and the darkest recesses of military research. It all began in 1932 in Bucharest, when this man, a flight engineer called Henry Coanda, made an extraordinary discovery using a disc-shaped flying object. One of the first people to see Coanda's experiments was then a 20-year-old aeronautical student called Radu Manikatide.
The saucer rose to the ceiling and remained there. I thought it was something extraordinary. It would never have crossed my mind. You know, I was only used to the idea of normal flying.
Young Radu had just witnessed the world's first flying saucer, and this is how it worked. If you draw air down onto a curved shape like a saucer, it follows the surface of that shape. By literally sucking the air from above his saucer so it flowed round and underneath, Coanda found he could both lower the air pressure above and raise it below, causing the craft to levitate. This became known as the Coanda effect. It's the principle at the heart of saucer flight.
It was a very simple idea, but of course you had to have thought of it in the first place.
This is what the German saucer looked like. It was based on the flying saucer principle, the effect discovered by Henry Coanda, whereby the ship created an area of low pressure above it and literally sucked itself into the air. But it combined this with other new technologies, such as the helicopter and the jet engine. It was fast, versatile, and could potentially carry a heavy payload of bombs underneath. But perhaps most important in a country which had lost so many runways to...
Yep.
If I remember right, okay. I was supposed to split this clip in two. Right, so if I remember rightly, so the Coanda effect basically was tested, the theory was tested in the 30s, even before that. So the idea is pushing down air from the saucer will actually give it levitation, like it displays here. So
Right.
this was the theory going forward for the flying saucers that were developed coming up now, which I'm going to describe to you. Let's leave that clip for the moment, and could you bring up photograph 9?
Yep. I mean, that's incredible. That's another thing that's really interesting about all this, guys, is I didn't know there was like really a difference between like these hovercraft versions of these Nazi UFOs, and then there's also these anti-gravity ones. I'm sure we're going to get into at some point here pretty soon.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting stuff, without a doubt. Which one are you looking for? Which number?
Number 9, please.
All right, number 9. 2 number 9s, a number 4.
I was just gonna say that. I love that game.
Extra dip. All right, go ahead, number 9.
Right, so these are the scientists, engineers that were involved in these turbine-driven aircraft. I'm going to show you what these aircraft look like in a minute. So, right, first one, top left, his name is Rudolf Schriever. The guy to the right of him is called Dr. Richard Mithe. The one below to the left, bottom picture, is Giuseppe Belluzzo. And the question mark is Otto Hubbermore, which I can't find a photograph of him. So these people came forward in the 50s to talk about flying saucers. So if you skip to photograph 10...
Here we go. This one.
So this, yeah, fantastic. So this is the first report in an Italian newspaper. I can't remember the date of it. I think it was June. It's probably like June or no, April of 25th of April. Basically, this came out in 1950, so a long time ago, of a Italian engineer named Giuseppe Belluzzo came forward and said that he worked for the Germans in 1942 building flying saucers. And this is the original newspaper clip.
Wow.
That shows, yeah.
What's the center? What's the center section here?
So what he's basically describing as the flying disc. Well, they didn't call it flying saucers. They call it flying discs. These were basically a central cockpit with a rotating fan going around. I tell you what, bring up photograph 11, because I'm going to show you what this aircraft looked like, because this is going to give an idea of what these discs looked and how they operated, because it's very, very... It's interesting, but I wouldn't be... So, right, basically what you got here, right in the center, you got a central cockpit in plexiglass. What's strange is that the guy standing up, okay, you have to take into consideration, not sitting down. And what you got around the exterior of the cockpit is a rotating fan going around.
I see. Yeah, it's cool.
See, and on the outskirts, you got these rockets, about four rockets going around, and the rockets are what's actually rotating the fan going around.
Oh, I see them. Yeah,
faster. This is what's causing it to levitate. Now, this was the first model that came out. Actually, that there was actually drawn up by Rudolf Schriever in 5 days afterwards. So that was 1950. Yeah, 1950. 5 days afterwards, Giuseppe Belluzzo came out with his claims. Rudolf Schriever came out in a German newspaper called Der Spiegel. And he came forward with this drawing. He says, I also worked for the German Flying Saucer program as well. And this basically what he's saying, what they these were prototypes. These weren't put into mass production because they made a couple of models of these. So this is the idea. Now, Rudolf Schriever and Otto Hobbenmühl both worked together to create this disc here. This is like the first model. So this is an idea of what these flying discs look like.
Very
Now,
cool.
Apparently, it flew well according to the test flight, which was in 1942, 43 sort of time. But they wanted to advance the technology to make it more faster, because originally these were bombers. These were made for bombers.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah, this is what it's like, a whole new type of aircraft that they were designing. But I don't think it was that efficient, because I'm going to explain something later on when we get into the Avro car. So this is just the idea of what the flying saucer looked like. I'm going to skip a few photographs and go to number 12.
Right. This is incredible information, brother. I mean, you could have been a PhD teacher somewhere. This is incredible stuff, man. Yeah, without a doubt. Is this the right photo, right?
Yeah, that's the right one. So George Klein, he's another inventor. Well, not inventor. He was a student at the time who claimed to work on a flying disc in 1942. So you got all these engineers starting to come out of this time period, and in the 1950s saying, "Look, I worked for the Germans to develop flying discs, basically," and that's him there showing what these discs look like, basically. So, like I said, it's a central cockpit with a rotating fan going around, with almost like a V1, V2 style rockets going around, giving it enough force of spin, giving it to levitate. Now, the first model didn't land properly. Apparently it crashed. It had trouble landing it.
Yeah.
Basically, they tested it indoors. It just basically lifted up and it went down. But when they tested it outside to see if it actually had some actual flight ability for it, it didn't land that well. Let's go to number 13, because they built 3 models of these. So what we saw there was the first prototype was built in 1942. So 1942 to 44 sort of time, they built their second one. Now, on the side here, if you looked at the bottom of the saucer, you got something sticking out. That is what propelled. You see that there?
Yeah,
It's like an exhaust. That is what's going to propel the craft forward, because the first prototype didn't have that. It just had the rotating fan, so it just basically lifted up and went back down. But with this, they wanted to put the craft forward. So they put this more or less sort of exhaust at the end to propel the craft forward, but still it wasn't that great. And then when it came to 1944, 45, all those 4 scientists, Rudolf Schriever, Dr. Mithe, Giuseppe Belluzzo, and Otto Hobbenmühl, all worked together to build something called the V7, the Wunderwaffe, as
what a name!
Say. What a name, man! So let's go to photograph 14, and this was the last model that was. Apparently, they had a fully functioning model of this. I forgot to put the photograph on there. Never mind. But just trust me when I say this. But yeah, but they allegedly tested this device near the end of the war, which was it was June of 1944. So this is a whole different. This is a flying saucer, like a flying discus. Now, what we have here, we've scrapped the idea of the rotating fan going around, and what we have several jets. So you see those little black markers going all the way around the exterior part of the saucer. These were jets. Basically, the idea, because they perfected the V1 and V2 rockets, they thought, well, that's given us enough power, they put in V2 rockets from Germany to England, bombing my country, so it shows you how much power it had. So they put this sort of technology into flying saucers, and this is what created the lift, basically. That was allegedly tested in 1944, June of 1944, above the Baltic. No evidence whatsoever, no photograph. There is one photograph I forgot to put in, but it looks so bloody fake, to be honest with you. So take it with a very pinch of salt.
And just for the viewers, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just for the viewers' sake, these are all from your books, right? Like, these are photos you took from your books?
Yeah. All my books here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Nothing here is really on the internet. There might be a few pictures of like some scientists and all that sort of stuff, but a lot of, say, about 95% is all from books here.
Incredible, dude. Yeah.
These books date back from the 60s, 70s. So this predates the internet, by 50 years. So, but like I said, I'm not saying anything's gospel, but I'm sort of taking the accounts of what these engineers are saying, and sort of, I'm not saying taking their word for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Germans did develop something like this.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised, but unfortunately, there is no photographs. There is zilch, nothing. All we have is just sketches and claims from people. But like I said, guys, I'm not ruling this out at all. So that part there is it. So in it, basically, that is basically the project they were dealing with in that sort of time. That sounds more plausible than the anti-gravity flying saucers that we will get to.
Right.
But the search continues. I mean, if I find any new information on these sources, I'd love to find it. But the story goes is that near the end of the war, because this was tested in Prague airport. Now, the English and the Americans, obviously joining allies at the end of the war, we were bombing the crap out of that place. Peenemünde, Prague, and some other places as well, because this is where they were developing like the V1 and V2 rockets. So, yeah, there's no remnants of anything, absolutely nothing. But the scientists involved as well. Rudolf Schriever, he claimed to immigrate to America and become a truck driver. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. Richard Methe allegedly worked on the Avro car, which we were talking about later. Just we're going to allude to it a little bit. Giuseppe Belluzzo, nothing really on him as well. So it's so sketchy of where these people went, because we've got to talk about Operation Paperclip a little bit at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Because that sort of alludes to, where do these scientists, engineers go to? They must have went somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I mean, like we described on Alien Addict yesterday, these scientists went missing. A lot of them, Hans Kammler, Heinrich Müller, Martin Bormann, these are real high people up, went missing, declared dead several times, but found, with their graves empty, So, yeah, we will look to that a little bit later on. So this is it, guys, and your listeners, just to describe, this is what they were developing. These were turbine-driven aircraft, piston-driven aircraft to create these flying saucers. There wasn't in mass production because we would have seen them, but I don't think these flew that well. I'm going to get to when we get to the Avro a bit later. So that's that for the turbine-driven aircraft for now. And let's move on to someone that was claims to be involved in the flying saucer program. So if you go to photograph number 16, and we're going to get to someone. I'm actually looking through his bibliography now. Now, this guy here is named Joseph Andres Epp. His book here, Die Realität der Flugscheiben, which means the reality of flying discs. He claimed to be part of the flying saucer program that I just talked about, the piston-driven aircraft. He claims to be involved in that. Not only that, he claims to be involved, that his plans were stolen. He claims that because Joseph Andres Epp, he grew up when a kid. He was fascinated by model aircraft, basically, and he went to aviation school. He worked in the shipyard for most of the time when he was in his teens, but he always been fascinated with aircraft. And he saw the first helicopter that the Germans made. I think it was called the Flugwaffel or something like that. And it was like it's something so bloody stupid. I'm looking through these names, these German names. I just keep on hearing the word waffle and become really hungry for some reason.
Yeah.
But the idea, this aircraft, this helicopter had two propeller blades that would spin like this. It was actually quite reliable. And Joseph saw this when he went to aviation school. So actually, I can take that spinning propeller and pull it into a disc-shaped craft, basically. And this is in the 1930s. Now, he brought his model. Actually, go pick up. If you go to number 21, I'm going to show you his design of a flying saucer back in the 30s, because he was fascinated with disc shape. He wanted to change the whole aspect of how aircraft basically works. So the idea is like a supersonic helicopter. So the idea is the exterior part is a rotating fan with rockets going around the side. It's got a little propeller at the top and all that. So this was in 1939 he developed this. They didn't make these flying saucers until 1942 sort of period. So he brought his plans and models, because he made a model of this, allegedly, no photographs of it, a fully functioning small type model. These weren't full size, probably about 5 foot in width, so it's nothing massive. And there's a place in Germany called the Reich Ministry Aviation. The Reich Aviation Ministry in Berlin. And this is where people were taking their new concept of flying aircraft. So it was like an aviation school. And what they would do, they will take these concepts and basically develop it, basically put it in production and get it basically tested. And he said he brought that model there and all his test part of that flying saucer to the aviation ministry in Berlin in 1940. And then they started developing that propeller, like the Rudolf Schriever craft, in 1942. Now, Joseph is saying that they stole his plans. And to the day he died, he said, nope, they stole my plans. He was basically furious of basically he didn't take any credit for it. If you skip to, let's go to photograph 18. And this is a model that Joseph built
I see.
In the early 40s, and you can see that there. That looks. So this is the idea of the V7 craft that I showed you. Remember, with the exterior jets going around, the individual ones going around. This is the same sort of concept. He's going, what's going on here? You're stealing my ideas. So. Yeah, exactly. I can see his point.
Yeah,
so
it's very fascinating. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah.
So he was saying that, look, my plans are stolen. I want some credit for the prototypes he's been building. But that is one of the models he was building. He's built it throughout his life, really. But we didn't see any of them fly. So all these models can actually fly, but there's no photographs of it. So I'm keeping this story a bit sketchy. But I'll tell you what, let's go. Let's get to his photograph, because this is where it gets interesting. This makes me go, ooh, hold on, there's something going on here.
Which photo are you looking
for? Get the photograph up, actually.
Oh, you were still 118? Okay.
No, go to... No, actually, sorry, man, I'm going all over the place. Play the clip. Play in the...
Hey, sorry, man. Yeah, hey, we're rolling, we're rolling. There is no audio on this clip, by the way. I don't think there is. Yeah, I don't think there's any audio on it.
Oh, there's no audio now?
I don't think that there is. Because I have it turned up, but it's... Oh, maybe there is right here. Oh, boy, I better look, because this might kill headphone users, man. I just give you a little bit of a warning here. Let's see where we're at. Oh, yeah, there's audio.
The 26th Fighter Squadron had been ordered to fly from Kiel to
That's
Norway
a wild-looking
in order
dude.
to resupply the 30 Fighter Squadron of the Bambach Command. On the return flight to Hamburg, I took a model of my aircraft design with me, and taking advantage of the opportunity, actually had it forwarded to Ernst Udet in the Reichs Air Ministry in Berlin.
Yeah, there it is.
Zum Abschicken zum Reichsluftfahrtministerium nach Berlin an Udet.
I finally spoke German.
Udet passed this model on to the research establishment in Peenemünde.
Wow, look at that thing.
Tests were later carried out. Over and over again, I later heard reports from people who were working in Prague on the construction of flying discs, and progress in this field was actually being made. I also knew that Habermohl and Schriever were in possession of my model and had begun work on its practical applications.
Habermohl und Schriever mein Modell praktisch bekommen hätten zum Ausarbeiten, zum Rekonstruieren. Und diese Flugscheibe hat der Schriever auf seine Art, seine Gedanken umgebaut. Während ich
Schriever made certain alterations to my plans, whereas, as I was later to ascertain, Habermohl had remained true to my original design. The second prototype was a flying disc, 42 meters long, and was built by Miete Beluzzo in Breslau.
40 Meter große Flugscheibe wurde gebaut durch Miete und Beluzzo. Und zwar in Breslau. Und diese Flugscheibe sollte dann, wie ich dann erfahren habe, sollte dann nach Spitzbergen geflogen werden.
This flying disc, as I discovered, was flown to Spitzbergen in Norway and should have returned to Rechlin on a directional beam with an unknown transmission frequency and code word.
für den Sender, nicht, was überhaupt gar nicht benutzt wurde von anderen, sollte auf diesen Richtstrahl die Flugscheibe
However,
nachher schließen.
due to a bad landing in Spitzbergen,
Sie ist aber bei
it was
der Landung in
damaged
Spitzbergen
and was unable to
so
complete the return flight
zerstört worden,
home.
Die ist heftig aufgestoßen und konnte dann nicht mehr zurückfliegen. Dann bin ich rausgefahren.
After that, I drove into the hills just outside Prague, where the secret testing ground was supposed to have been located. I had my Leica A camera with me when suddenly I saw such a flying saucer. I was wounded at the time, so I know that it was November, December, although the test flight was not due to take place until the following February. Someone had made an unscheduled test flight, and this is what I saw coming towards me. It had no wings, absolutely none. I took a photo and wound on the film, but it was already directly over me. Then I took a second photo, and I could see that it was a flying gyroscope, a flying saucer.
Eine Flugscheibe.
So there you have it. So this is what gets interesting, because on the morning he woke up, he was pissed off. He was like, right, I'm going to go to this testing ground in Prague. I'm gonna find these bloody flying saucers, because they're furious that they stole his plans. So he drives to the bloody airport and he stops to check his map, and only to bloody see a flipping flying saucer flying over his head. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, right? I'm going to allude to something in a minute. This is going to get real complicated. But how weird is that? How weird is that he goes in to Prague, and he wasn't near Prague as well. He was near the testing ground. He stopped his car to check the coordinates. But let's bring up that photograph. Now let's go to picture 23. Now this is a big blown up photograph of what he'd taken. He took two photographs, but we'll stick to the second one because you got a much more clear picture of this. Right, okay. So if you see that there's watermark damage, see the middle of the photograph, you got these little black lines and all that. Yeah. And if you can see that in the photograph, that's basically water damage.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all like water damage, basically. So this is original photograph copied from his book. You've seen the original photograph from the clip I just showed you there.
Right.
So this is the flying saucer. Now, pay attention. Keep it there. See on the left-hand side, you see those trees? You got 3 branches sticking out and all that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Go to picture number 25. Because no one's found this. I guarantee. I was jumping up and down when I saw this photograph.
Okay.
So that photograph there is the same photograph, but it's from this book called UFO Photograph Volume 1 by Rendell Stevens. Now, if you know anyone by Rendell Stevens, he deals a lot with the Billy Meyer case. Now, on the description of that photograph, he's saying that photograph was taken in Italy in 1952. The description of it there. Skip to photograph 26, because we're going to have those two photographs side by side. So we're going to have Joseph André Zepp, and we're going to have the photograph from this book. And these are exactly the same photographs.
26 has the side by side, right? Okay.
Yeah, 26.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Perfect. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, that's it. So if you have a look here, the left photograph is Joseph André Zepp, what he'd taken with his film camera, and the other one is from the book UFOs Photographs. This one here from Rendell Stevens, who was a fraud in my opinion. So how the hell did he get that photograph? This is exactly the same. Would you agree, guys?
Very similar. Very similar.
So yeah, for those who are listening to this right now, if you actually look at the video here, you can see there's two photographs, two different scenarios. I trust Joseph André Zepp because he shows the two photographs on the actual video, the clip I just sent you. You actually see the two colored photographs. But this one here on the right, which is exactly the same, I don't know where Rendell Stevens got it from, because he said that came from Italy, which is a load of bollocks, but that photograph came from Joseph André Zepp. So yeah, it's very... When I saw this photograph, I was like, there's something not right here. So who do I trust at the end of the day? But at the same time, if you zoom in to Joseph André Zepp UFO, the craft...
You want left or right? Left?
Yeah, the left one, yeah. I mean, it kind of looks like the discus shape, like the V7, not like the flat discs, the two prototypes I showed you earlier. This was like the V7. So it's hard to say, man. I don't think you can fake something like that, because if you look at the two photographs, they look like the object is in the distance and you can see it coming closer. It's a shame he hasn't got a photograph of it flying over his head, but he's actually got the original photograph from film, so they just have some validity. But he might have faked it. Yeah, this is it. You have to take this into consideration. So this is just something I want to show you, that there are people out there that will use photographs, to say it was something else. So yeah, would you say those two photographs are the same?
I'd say they're very similar. This craft to me looks a little bit more level, where this one feels like it's banking, kind of like it's turning, I think that's the biggest difference that I can notice, besides the obvious weather damage or water damage here. I mean, this photo is a little bit darker in the bottom region. Obviously it's fuller trees is a difference there, but I don't know, like they're very similar. Absolutely. It kind of
like
reminds me
oversaturated.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of almost kind of looks like the Calvine UFO photo a little bit. Same kind of idea, where we just get some trees on the sides or above, and we have this image out there. I mean, it's not exactly like it, but it just reminds me, the whole color palette's very similar.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. That is Joseph Andres Depp. It was a fascinating story, but I'm going to do a full episode on his bibliography soon. Like I said, I've been reading through his book here, Die Realität, die Flugscheiben, which means the reality of flying disc, and he breaks down his whole life story. It's immensely fascinating, but I'm taking it with a very pinch of salt, because this conspiracy is not a lot to go by, you know what I mean? So yeah, let's move away from that and let's get into should we talk about some Foo Fighters?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, should we move on there? What are we doing for time? We're all good?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was gonna give you a time update. We're at we're at 48 minutes, believe it or not, man. This is flying by. This is insanely fun. Yeah.
Okay,
where do you want to go next?
Let's keep it this. Let's go to let's talk about some Foo Fighters. Let's go through 27. Let's go for 27.
All right.
Now I have to ask, when you order these books and stuff that you use for your research, are they all like translated like into English, or do you have some that are like in German and stuff?
Well, this one here, Joseph Andres Depp book, is all in German.
Okay.
Now, the advancement of technology. Now, first of all, I'm dyslexic. I'm like Ollie from Alien Addict. I cannot read. I can read it, but it don't function in. But what's brilliant about now is that with Google Translate, you can take the photograph of the page and it will translate every single word into English. Not only that, you can get a woman to speak for it for you. So what would take me about a week to read a book is now I can literally read, well, not me, but Google can read it to me in a day. So this is how quickly I'm getting these books, and is immensely fascinating. So all
That's
these,
cool.
you could translate. It's pretty cool, man, because I would have been really stuck.
I wouldn't have thought to do that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, thank you, Google. I know that you are evil company. So, yeah. Right. So Foo Fighters. These were balls of light that would track allied aircraft. This is specifically the Americans and British.
I thought they were just a really good band,
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. But they didn't know what these were, actually. So, yeah, these were, in today's ufology, or ufology, I like to call it, these were extraterrestrials. These were extraterrestrial craft, just to let you know that they're there and all that. But these basically balls of light sometimes be the size of a basketball, sometimes much bigger. And these were more or less sit on the ends of the wings of the aircraft. Some of them would do these fantastic maneuvers. I wouldn't say fantastic maneuvers. They probably just like swirl around and all that. But these were sit right on the edge of the wings itself. There are some reports of them down in aircraft. Now, specifically here, I'm going to get this guy on. Rendell Stevens wrote this book called UFOs Before Roswell, European Foo Fighters from 1940 to 1945. He has gone into the National Archive and he has dug up reports of Foo Fighters that is not released to the public. And Foo Fighters can be dated back to 1942. Now, I'm trying to get my bearings about what these were, because I'm reading through the documents that were saying just that these were obviously balls of light, but there is also another theory that these were German devices known as ramming jets. So it's very sketchy. It's such a big book. It's like 600 pages of documents.
Jeez.
So I've literally see what that label is. That's how far I've got. It's just ridiculous. I really
Wow.
want to get him on the show. He's writing another book as well. So he's been going into the National Archive and dug up reports. So yeah, these balls of light, they definitely were there. Here is a typical photograph. Everyone's seen this photograph of a Foo Fighter. Now, let's scrap the extraterrestrial side of it and let's think, okay, these were devices. Now, the conspiracy theory is, let's grab the book. So the idea of that these were German frequency probes came from this book here, Renato Vesco's book called Intercept UFO, But Don't Shoot. This book came out in 1971, and got this from America as well. And this was an Italian engineer that claimed to work for the Nazis in World War II. And he's saying that Foo Fighters were German devices. The idea is that they almost look like turtle shells. The Germans would describe these shells as, I can't remember what they bloody call it now, but they had a nickname for it. And these look like tortoise shells that were sent up from the ground upwards. And our reports from these devices come launching from an actual, I can't remember what military base it was, somewhere in Germany. It was like from this airfield. You can see these devices coming up, but these were shiny disc-shaped objects. And then as soon as they get to a certain level, they started to glow. Not only glow, but they had this glowing tail behind it. These can break more or less like the sound barrier. Now, have you seen an aircraft when it breaks a sound barrier? It produces like a ring.
Yeah.
Right. Look at that photograph. Right. Look at that photograph there.
Yeah.
I think what that object is doing is breaking a sound barrier. People say, "Oh, and that's just the light reflecting." It might be, I don't know, but to me, that looked like that singular object is breaking that sound barrier because it produces that circular sort of halo around it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Let's skip to a photograph that's not on the internet of a Foo Fighter. Go to photograph 30. I've looked high and low for this photograph and I can't see it. Now, this Foo Fighter here looks like it's got a trail coming behind it. This is a genuine photograph. So if you blow it up a little bit, see there on the left-hand side.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for me, what's difficult to find this out? Does that look like it's got a trail going behind it? Or do you think that's part of the aircraft itself?
You mean like it's very close, or do you mean like this whole black path? Yeah, I kind of see it's like a triangle coming off. It kind of looks like an ice cream cone, you know, like it's a cone. I mean, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can try to zoom in a little bit more. Yep.
Because the reports that I've been reading is that these were almost like a glowing tail behind it.
Okay.
I should have mentioned about these devices. What they would do, they would sit on the ends of the wings of the bombers, and it would produce a very strong magnetic field, and it would basically disrupt the cockpit recordings and ignition systems of the cockpit, causing it to crash. So the idea is, instead of shooting these planes, the bombers, from the ground up, they'll just send these probes up and they'll just do the work for them. These were radio controlled. They did have that technology at that time of the war. So we're talking about 1944-45, because they were sending the V2 rockets that were television guided cameras in them, sending it from German to England to bomb us. And those were radio controlled as well. So they did have that technology. So it's very speculative. I really want to speak to Graham Randall. Sorry, he's been absolutely brilliant research into it, because he knows more about Foo Fighters than I do, and he's just alluded a little bit about whether or not these were German devices. He don't think there is, but he's not ruling it out at all. So yeah, it's a fascinating concept, but yeah, I would have thought this device would have been perfected, or the military would have had it. But it's a tricky one, man. You know, it's take it with a pinch of salt with any sort of information.
I mean, am I wrong? Didn't they see Foo Fighters in Vietnam too? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get my head around is whether or not these balls of light were completely different.
Yeah.
So the ones that Rendell Stevens was saying, yeah, there are balls of light, but the ones like that sit on the ends of the wings, those have been reported, and the ones that happened coming from the air base coming up to the Allied bombers, that's also reported as well. And actually, reports from pilots say, no, we saw these like circular disc-shaped objects coming from the ground up, and there are reports of that. So yeah, would you like to see a alleged photograph of a Foo Fighter?
Yeah.
Bring up photograph number 31.
Right,
I have
31.
number 31, please, ice cream.
31. 31's my new number.
There you go.
All right, here we go.
So yeah, take this with a very pinch of salt. This is what it allegedly looked like. So what did the Germans call it? They called it
something waffle, I bet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like waffle. Don't make me hungry. I've already haven't eaten it. But yeah, these were described as tortoise shells on the ground. If you skip to number 30, photograph number 32, you get sort of at least a better version of this. Now, these had legs apparently, and underneath it you had like an exhaust that would propel the craft forward. So this allegedly what Foo Fighters look like. Now, going into the testimony, there was a German cargo plane captain who was doing the rounds, dropping off various parts of equipment to various places around Germany. And this is 1943, 44, according to the report. So he flies his plane into this military base. I can't remember what it was called in the report, but he was asked to taxi his plane, sit there, wait for further orders. So he's sitting there. Nobody was coming out. He's thinking, what the bloody hell's going on? And I'm wasting time. I've got other places to go to. So he gets out the plane and he walks over to this big, large hangar, huge hangar. And as he walks in, this is what he says. He saw these flying discs on top of tripods.
Wow.
And he was going, this probably what the Germans were seeing, the pilots were seeing as well, because the Germans were seeing these as well. Now, obviously, if they were devices, top secret devices, they wouldn't have made this public to anybody, really. This was probably just like a prototype, more or less. I don't think they had these in mass productions. So when he saw these aircraft, a guard came up to him and said, look, get the bloody out of here. You shouldn't really be here. But he described these devices like this, just like this. They're very small. They weren't massive. They were radio controlled, so it's not big enough to fit a person into it.
Looks very drone-like for nowadays,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it's very similar.
It's like, did the Germans develop, some sort of drone technology? I wouldn't be surprised if they did. At least try saying that. So yeah, guys, that is what the Foo Fighters is. But before it was called Foo Fighters, go to photograph number 33.
33. Yeah, I see one photo. Can I get you out of order real quick? I want to pull this one photo up that I'm seeing here, an extra one, just for a moment. This is kind of one I feel like I've seen before. This is supposed to be Foo Fighters too, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
This is a photo I've seen. It's cool.
Tell behind it.
Yeah.
So that's original photograph. So more research is to be done into Foo Fighters because it's an immensely fascinating subject, because there are reports and photographs as well and testimony. So there is a lot to go by, and there's still a lot more evidence. Well, I say evidence, a lot of documents to suggest they're possibly down to aircraft as well. It's immensely fascinating, but
yeah, this is a famous photo, right? Like,
I see that one a lot.
Yeah, do you know where this one's from again? Can you remind me?
No idea. It's come from a newspaper somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, immensely fascinating photograph. But if you type in Foo Fighters, that is a photograph you're gonna get.
Yeah, for sure. What was the next one? 33, you said?
Yeah, 33. Think about it, we've got 85 photographs, man. We're on 33. I'm gonna try and speed things up, man. I'm gonna try things.
Hey man, you're doing great. You're doing tremendous. You're better than you probably realize. So keep rolling.
Oh, sorry, man. Not that one. Sorry, I slipped up.
Okay, no problem.
It was the one before that.
Maybe this was my calling, French, to pull up photos for people.
What's the next one? Stuff in school, I'd be so interested in PowerPoint.
Completely. Yeah, completely. Oh wait, you have two 33s here. Is it the document one? Headquarters?
Oh, yeah, the document. Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll try to help you as best as I can too. This one.
That's right, man.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just read this out for a minute. So this document came out from the FBI. Let me just bring it up.
I'm going to be a really bad host for 2 seconds. Boys, I have to go to the bathroom really, really quick. So while you're talking about this, go ahead and do your thing. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. So this document came out from the FBI, from the United States Strategic Air Force in Europe, Office of Director of Intelligence, got a bloody mouthful,
Right.
and an evolution of German capabilities in 1945. So what the FBI was doing after the war is that they were bringing in basically people from prisoners of war to give their accounts of whether or not the Germans were building advanced weaponry, because the Allies knew that they were developing, state of the art rocketry, aircraft as well. I mean, you have to say the Germans were way ahead. They were so advanced. I can't stress that enough. And no wonder why the Americans snagged a lot of the scientists after the war to help them against like the Russians and all that. So yeah, so what they were saying here that Foo Fighters, welcome back, man.
Yeah, I'm back.
Foo Fighters were called poof bombs. Now let's get a little description of what these were. So if you bring up photograph number 34.
Four. Right here. Right. We are? Yep.
Right. Okay. So in here, you can see number 4, it says poof bombs. Okay. So I'm going to read it out here the best that I can. Occasionally reported by pilots, and the testimonies of prisoners of war and escapees describe these weapons as, wait for it, radio controlled, jet propelled, still nose, short ranged, high performance ramming weapon. These were used against the bombing formations. Its speed is estimated to be 525 miles an hour. And if you skip to the other photograph, which would be 35, I can continue this.
Yeah, boy, they're cooking, huh?
Right.
Right. Okay. So here, and it is estimated to have the endurance of 25 minutes. These bombers were launched from the local airfield and are radio controlled either from the ground or possibly an aircraft. So here we have the FBI saying, look, these were downed aircraft. These were used for downing aircraft. And even the FBI admitted to it. And this is 1945. They came out with this.
Oh, wow.
They also had this document had some other stuff as well, like laser weapon systems. Like number 5 there says magnetic waves. It gets really crazy what the Germans were developing. So this alludes to Foo Fighters. This literally alludes to Foo Fighters, but they called these poof bombs, PHOO bombs. That's what the FBI called it. So there we go. I think that's it for Foo Fighters. So I'll do more research into it. I'm going to try and get Graham Randalls on the show as well, so we can do a bit of a deep dive into the subjects of Foo Fighters.
Well, yeah. Plus, you got your own channel. I know you want to save some of it for your channel, but which is okay with me.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I mean, it's not a lot to go by whether or not these were devices or not. There's not really much to go by. Let's bring up some testimony. Let's bring up some documents. I'm going to read really badly. Let's bring up 37.
All right, 37 it is.
We're going to skip a few photographs as well.
That's fine. Yep.
Right. So this document here was from November the 7th, 1947. Now, where the black is all been labeled out black, this is the person that was involved in this program in 1940. So it says here, identify flying objects here. Of May 1942, in the summer of 1945, this person worked for basically worked for the Germans. He was a prisoner of war. And it says here, this is what he witnessed in 1944. It says this vehicle was described as circular in shape. It was 75 to 100 yards in diameter, approximately 14 foot high. This vehicle was described to slowly rise vertically to the height of significant to clear the 40-foot wall and move slowly horizontally a short distance out of view, obstructed by trees. And this guy mentions that, yes, this was a prisoner of war that was working on a tractor.
Okay.
And he was saying that his tractor stopped when the flying saucer flew over his.
We hear about that stuff all the time. Cars turn off, right? I mean, yeah.
So this is an actual document from the FBI. stating that a prisoner of war, excuse me, but there's many photographs, not photographs, documents as well that suggest the Germans were developing disc-shaped aircraft, not anti-gravity. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But in this document, it states that the engineer here that is not named, that's just why it's all blanked out. They blanked the name out. I'd be really interested to see who this is. He'd taken a photograph of this alleged flying saucer. So if you skip to number 40, now this is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of this photo. This ain't exact great, but if you zoom in to the bottom photograph, that's what allegedly. Yeah, take it with a pinch of salt, guys.
Looks like Cat Dog from Nickelodeon a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? But he described this flying saucer. It did have some sort of legs it stood on. Like, I haven't seen the actual photograph itself, though. This is, like I said, it's a bit like VHS tapes. You get a copy of a copy of a copy, and it just gets really, really crap. And this is the same with these photographs here. So a lot of these photographs are black and white. They're very grainy. It doesn't really show anything detailed at all. So yeah, that is what came from that document there until we get the original photograph. It would be good to someone in America to go in and look into the National Archives, whether or not any reports of Foo Fighters and stuff like that. I think it'd be interesting to see, because you will have a massive back catalogue of it. I love to do stuff like that, but it's finding the time. So yeah, there is so there is documents. I'm going to skip the documents for the minute because we've got so much they're only halfway through, so put it that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, hey, if we got to go over a little over 2 hours, that's fine, man. Don't worry. Yeah, I mean, we're good.
Okay, cool, man. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's skip that. Because I'm going to allude to it on my channel as well, with all these documents. I'm going to break it down just to see what these prisoners of war actually were describing. So let's move away from the disc-shaped aircraft, the turbine-driven aircraft, the Foo Fighters. Let's move on to the esoteric side, the spooky side of the Nazi flying saucer program.
Sure.
First thing I should mention, if you're going to go on the internet and type in Nazi flying saucers, I absolutely guarantee you're going to get this side of the story. And this is the Maria Orsic, the Vril Society.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, man. I cannot wait for the Maria Orsic episode. It's going to be a very sexy episode.
Well, this is the more famous side of this, right, Nick? I mean, this is what more people would know about versus what we just went over. What you went over there for that first hour was just stuff that I've never even come close to hearing about, stuff like that. So, so we're getting into more of the woo, more of the fun stuff that most people know that do look at it. Yeah,
this is what I would describe as the esoteric side of the Nazi flying saucer program. Right. Let's go back to the beginning, because it's such a mind fuck. Sorry for swearing, honestly.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'll wrap my bloody head around this. Absolutely.
No, you're good. You're good.
So, I will have a final conclusion after this, but let's have a bit of fun now here, guys.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Right, where did Maria Orsic, where did the Vril Society come from? Started up in the early 90s by two Austrians. These are the two people that created the legend of the story. The person was called Norbert Jürgen Rathofer, and another person was called Ralph Ettel. Now, these two Austrians worked together to create a book called The Vril Project. So this book is basically the blueprint for Maria Orsic, the Vril Society. Well, I'll allude to the Vril Society in a minute, but the whole Vril aspect, because that Vril is what links into the Nazi flying saucer program. So let's go what Vril is. So Vril is known in the 18th century as the life force. It's like this mysterious sort of mystic power that people can have. You can trace back the story of Vril in a 1971 book by someone called Edward D. Lyson. He wrote a book in 1871 called The Coming of the New Race. This was a story about an underground civilization that used the power of the Vril for self-healing promises, and it was almost like a mystic power. And that's 1871. Move forward a few years to Helena Blavatsky. She popularized the Vril as a mysterious power. So that aspect of the Vril life force is really it's quite famous for the early 19th century. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's skip forward. So there are mentions about Thrill, but the Thrill Society. Now, not the Tula Gesellschaft. I'm not talking about the Tula. That was a real society in 1919. But the story of the Vril Society, which means it was Maria Orsic, the private investors, her 7 gorgeous sisters, and all that, came from a book here called Morning of the Magicians. This came out in 1970s, which alludes to a society in Germany in the 1920s. Okay, remember this, 1920s, 1923, 25, where Maria Orsic, who was a powerful psychic medium. Let's get Maria Orsic up. Let's bring up 43. Go on, let's have a
I knew you were gonna say 43. I just felt that was gonna be the
not
one.
69 then, no. Right, 43. 69 is coming, don't worry. So yeah, Maria Orsic.
Here she is.
Was beautiful. I know. Could you just imagine if Hitler was a 6 foot long, blonde head, blue eyed, gorgeous woman? They would have bloody won the war. They would have won. Looking like that. But yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Went
you're
off
good.
Topic there. So yeah, Maria Orsic. The story behind this. Now, this has come from the blueprint, the book here, because there is no mention of Maria Orsic in any books except for this one here. So she was a powerful psychic medium. But you probably want to smoke some weed when I get into this, because you need to get high for this. This gets so bloody wacky and stupid. So she was a powerful psychic medium who had communicated like telepathic communications to an advanced civilization 68 million light years away in a constellation of Taurus. And there's a planet called Aldebaran, which sounds like Alderaan from fucking Star Wars.
Sure does, yeah. Yeah.
You see what I mean? So you get these like influences in it. So yeah, she is the one that had communicated plans from an advanced Aryan race. Aryan plays a big part into the sort of Nazi philosophy, and the Aryan race gave her communication powers of the construction plans of the flying saucers, the anti-gravity flying saucers. I am not joking, guys. I am literally not joking. She is the one that had the construction plans and the details, because she had the communications from the planet Aldebaran. This is the story of Hannibal flying saucers. If you go to forget the flying saucers for the moment. She also created a time travel device. I'm not joking. She actually created a time travel device. Would you like to see a time travel device?
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah. Let's bring up this actual photograph of this time travel device. 44.1.
It's not a question you get asked very often.
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's
kind of like when Napoleon Dynamite, when he comes in and says, "I've already tried it." Remember he electrocutes himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Turn it off. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, this is her sketch of the time travel device. It was basically 2 plates that was spin. This was created in 1925, guys. Okay, so this is true. This is all true here. So yeah, that's an actual part of what she developed. I'm not joking, you know. So let's skip that, and she. I tell you what, let's go into photograph number 44, because there's something that really bugs me when you're looking at Maria Orsic's story. Right, because I'm going to get into a really funny photograph later, and I was in stitches when I saw this photograph. So the first photograph you see, all these photographs are allegedly Maria Orsic.
Yeah.
Go on the internet and you will find about 6 to 7 different photographs of Maria Orsic. I am saying this now, guys, for someone who's done the research. Maria Orsic does not exist. The Thrill Society does not exist. I have searched high and low. I have spoken to people who's been into the German National Archive. Tino Struckmann, he's got a YouTube channel. He's a German historian, and he says there is no evidence of Maria Orsic. These were stories to sell books like this. But unfortunately, there are people out there who believe that they are the reincarnation of Maria Orsic.
I've heard of that. Yeah. I've heard of that.
You have books here. Got this one here. Maria Orsic and Nikola Tesla. I mean, what the bloody hell are people talking about? So you have people that are making bullshit stories or bullshit claims with people that don't exist. I've studied high.
What do you mean, Nick? No one's ever done that before. What do you mean?
I know, exactly, man. Yeah, I just have to get out of the way because it's so ludicrous. As I'm translating this book, I'm going, this sounds like a bloody comic book. But the Maria Orsic and Thrill Society, people think is real. You go on the internet, it's like a real society. And I'm saying this now. And I know that people out there that believe the Maria Orsic and Thrill Society is a real thing. And unfortunately, I'm saying this now. The esoteric side is a load of nonsense. If you look into it, it was created by a bunch of neo-Nazis. It was created by a bunch of neo-Nazis. You know, these stories of Maria Orsic, there's no backtrack record of it. Only, 45 years after the war. Who says, or on a podcast on Alien Addicts, I think it was Mysterion, he says, oh, you won't be able to find any information on Maria Orsic because they were like private investors. I'm like, still, you would have had at least a birth certificate, at least something, a sketch, handwriting, something to allude of Maria Orsic, but there is zero. Absolutely nothing, guys. I've looked high and low about this. I love gorgeous long blonde haired women, and I'll do anything to research them. But honestly, there's nothing.
So where do you think this came from? Then I mean, who created her?
So Norbert Jorgen Rathofer and Ralph Ethel in the late 80s, they created the book here, the Thrill Project.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
They also co-created 2 documentaries, which is on my channel. If you go to Cosmic Twilight, you will see UFO Secrets of the Third Reich. They created that, and he also created another documentary called UFOs, World War II, German Secret Flying Saucers. So those came out in the early 90s, a year after this book was published. And this is where you get the Maria Orsic story. The first picture, the first Maria Orsic is actually a sketch. There's no photograph of her. I mean, all the photographs are doctored. I mean, if you look at that photograph here, look at the second photograph on the top left, second photograph. Does that photograph look like it was taken in the 20s? No, of course it doesn't, because it's all bloody fake. So again, there's people that there are men out there, unfortunately, getting boners for bloody long blonde-haired women. Okay, fine, fair enough, but they're trying to. It's so in bed with the Nazi flying saucer, and it's so wacky and stupid. But I'm trying to add some bloody common sense, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, no, this really doesn't make any sense, But let's get into the fun side there. Let's get into the Hal Naboo and Vril flying saucers that she allegedly had the details for.
Absolutely.
Let's go for the top. Let's go for 45. And I'm pretty sure some of the people have seen these photographs before. The reason why I bought these books because I wanted to find the original story and the original photographs in the best color that I can, and it is just is impossible. So
I think I've seen you show this photo before on Alien Addict. I think you did, right?
We're gonna go through this again because it's just worth going through.
No, 100%.
These are fantastic photographs. Don't get me wrong; they're great for the time. But think about Billy Meyer, guys. Especially the next photograph I'm going to show. So this is called the Hal Naboo 1. Clearly, you can see you got a gun turret. Some say this was a Panther tank turret. Some say this was a laser weapon system. Who bloody knows? Problem with these photographs, and some of them as we're going to go through, is that you will have trees in the background, at least some sort of foliage to see it makes it more solidified as a genuine photograph. But this, I don't know. Someone could easily fake this. It's not like a backup shot. You can't really see any buildings, anything like that. So this is what you'll find of the Hal Naboo. Now, this was not a fighter aircraft. This was more or less a carrier aircraft. Allegedly. I say that very allegedly.
Right. So, that's the case. What's the need for the turret?
Exactly. Yeah. So the gun turret underneath was an upside down Panther turret. So let's skip to 46.
Yeah, that looks like a laser gun to me for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that is part of the story. They use like laser weapon systems, but again, no proof of it.
Yeah.
So this next photograph here just reminds me of Billy Meyer.
Yeah, it does. Wow. Yeah.
Because what Billy Meyer did, just to allude a little bit, he would use the real background, but fake trees. and he would blend both in together. And this photograph here almost looks like it. You know,
Yeah,
it
it
kind of looks
does.
like models. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
It's got the clouds in the background, great, but you can easily fake that with models, 100%. It'll be good to see some actual people walking around, but you probably end up having like bloody like Lego figures on there or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. This
Yeah.
this truck looks very toy truck to me. Like the cab, the
Yeah.
cab looks very, very toy truck. Like it looks like it's too
It does.
small, like for what that vehicle
It's
would
like
be.
squished.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely looks squished. I agree. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this kind of the detail, even though it's blurry, you still get that your eyes still make you believe there's detail there, like the Billy Meyer photos. I get why you say that 100%. Yeah, and then you got the little
Yeah.
turret up there, right? Is that supposed to be like a little
Yeah, you
tank
got
turret?
a little gun turret as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How they flew these craft were all on fours, like the doggy style position. That is how they flew these craft. I'm not joking. They didn't sit down. They were in a doggy style position to fly these craft. I'm going to try and bring out a photograph. I'm not joking. It's so wacky backy, but it's all fake anyway. But let's go on to the next photograph.
It's still fun though. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
so.
part
Yeah.
of yeah. It's just the fun bit, guys. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had fun the whole time personally, but I mean, yeah, these are
But
these
this
are
is
really
like
good.
the wacky side.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, let's skip 47. Let's go to 48 because you got at least a bit of detail in here.
Now this also is very Billy Meyer too, even though it's blurrier.
Yes.
Same idea.
So if that was just in a complete white background, that would look fake-ish. But the fact it's got these trees almost solidifies a little bit. You can kind of see like the gun turret underneath a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, right
It's
there.
hard to make out. Again, where this photograph came from, God knows. I'm literally trying to find where these photographs originated from. Some say that it came from the unification of Germany in 1990, where all these documents and blueprints, which I'm going to show in a minute. But there's still no evidence for it. You know, it's hard to tell, man. There's a lot of fakes going on. The next photograph, number 49, was allegedly looks inside of the Haunebu flying saucer itself. I don't know, man. It's hard to tell. If you look at the windows of the Haunebu, they kind of look like that a little bit. You know, the circular.
Yeah.
It looks like a nuclear sort of like a nuclear power plant sort of thing, isn't it? Really.
I wonder if the image is upside down. Like if they took this, like, you know what I mean? Like this is really the floor kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Actually,
I don't know. Because like,
It feels that way. Now that you said
do you know if you can take that photograph, could you pull it into like a website? Can actually backtrack where the photograph came from? Isn't there like a website you can be able to do that? So I'll be really interested. Now you mentioned it, it looks like it's probably flipped upside down.
It looks that way to me, just like the windows, like the way that the arc is on them. I don't know. That looks like it's upside down to me.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, a very pinch of salt, guys. Let's skip 50 and go to 51 because I love this. This is talking about toy Legos.
All right, 51. Loading. Dude, there's so many of these photos. Oh, okay.
Sorry, we'll
No, it's beautiful. No, it's beautiful, man. I had a lot of questions. Full disclosure here for this, and I wrote them for no reason. You came in here with incredible information. This has been great. I spent time for literally no reason. So no, it's terrific, man. Just keep going. I'm enjoying it.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
If you zoom in a little bit, I just find these photographs absolutely hilarious.
Stop
this is
motion
so typical.
figurine.
Exactly.
Clay model.
Also, the Germans I don't think they developed a flying saucer like that. It almost looks like a brim of a hat. But again, they still added like the details of trees in the background a little bit there. You know,
underneath,
the pathway. So they're trying to make it more validity and more. It still looks bloody fake, to be honest with you.
Of course,
yeah.
So this is called the Haunebu flying saucers. These were the big flying saucers. So next, we're going to go into the Vril. This was nicknamed the Vril. They've made several models of these, and they made 3 models of the Haunebu, and they made several models of the Vril. Now, the Vril was a fighter aircraft. So if we go to Yeah, go to 52 because this is probably the best photograph of it.
Okay. Load it up.
This is a typical one. Again, probably more Billy Maher-ish, but still, he's making the great, expectations of the background with the trees and everything. You can see the car, which is a German car because I googled it, and it is a car of the time. This is obviously the anti-gravity flying saucers that Maria Orsic allegedly had the construction plans for.
Nick, do we have any idea who made these? Who made these photos and everything? No idea at all.
No idea. This is it. This is why I'm going into the back archive trying to find at least something, but I cannot find anything. It is so difficult. The books show photographs, but it's just not good enough. This is what I mean. The search continues. The search isn't going to finish there. So that's my main thing. This is reason why I bought these books, because I wanted a very clear photograph, like the original photograph, the best that I can. Can't find it. Can't find it anywhere. So, but this is called The Thrill. If you skip to, actually, remember I talked about that pilot who saw these flying saucers on tripods. Well, that's a flying saucer on a bloody tripod. You know what I mean? Go to 53, because that photograph here is the original. So these two photographs I showed before, that is all one photograph. So the flying saucer, we saw the photograph before. This is like the side of it.
Right.
And this shows the guy holding what you can see there.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, he's obviously grabbing it. I mean, the height makes sense, right? Like I guess the size of it would make sense. The scale, they got the vehicle back there. The vehicle matches the scale of the person pretty well.
But
it's interesting.
The thing is, the person's blacked out. There's no detail. You can see the wheel arch of the car and all that, but the person's completely blacked out.
It's a good point.
Really see anything.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You can also you can see the background as well. It's so sketchy, but that I'm trying to get the one full photograph, because the photograph before and that one is all one. Cannot find it anywhere, man. It's so bloody difficult. But that is probably the best looking photograph of the Vril. If you want to skip ahead to let's go to 55.
Right. 55. Zoom in on this for sure.
And again, this was taken from a book as well. This flying saucer was, you can see you got the Knight's Cross there in the middle of the flying saucer. This is obviously looks like it is in a field, but this is what I mean by photographs. It is so grainy. I don't understand why these books would put the most grainiest photographs, probably because the real photographs look so fake. So they have to grain it up to make it look more like real. But
I mean, we're still getting grainy photos though now, Nick, of these UFOs. I mean, it's always grainy. This is the common theme with all video and photos in this entire topic. It always looks like shit every time.
Yeah, plenty good point. Yeah,
I would believe that the next thing they're going to tell me is that this is Bigfoot over here on the right taking a seat, next to it. I mean, can't you see the face? There it is. I mean, it's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, man.
So about like grainy photographs. This is what you're getting most of the time. Let's move on a little bit to go to like 56 if you want to. This is a colored photograph. Yeah, you got black and white photographs, colored photographs.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go. So again, all these flying saucers just look different to me. There's no consistency of what these aircraft allegedly look like. Anti-gravity flying saucers. I must stress this, the anti-gravity side.
Yeah.
It's tricky, man. You got black and white photographs, you got colored photographs, and you're thinking, where do these come from? Where do these flying saucers come from? Just skipping up ahead, if you go to photograph 60, this was taken from the underneath of the Vril craft. And if you zoom in, you can see what do they call that in Germany? I probably forgot. It's not the Knight. That's not the Knight's Cross. It was the two,
the lightning bolt kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, the SS mark, right? Is that SS?
That's it.
Yeah. That is that right there. That's interesting.
So that is apparently in flight, taken underneath it, and Don't count me on that at all. It's again, it can be.
Well, I mean,
fake.
I guess caveat at the beginning of this whole thing we should have said is, none of us here condone what happened with the Nazis. Obviously, I mean, we're looking into this stuff just for history and for the interest of it. But I mean, we're not saying, hey, any of this was okay, or you know what I mean. I think you guys know what I mean. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
What the Nazis did was horrible. It was a horrible time. We're just trying to look at some of this other interesting stuff. But go ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to come across like a bloody skinhead or like.
Yeah,
like
me neither.
Like,
me
nah.
neither. I guess as soon as we got to any kind of imagery like that's when I was like, okay, we should probably put that disclaimer out here. We don't agree with it. So yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, this is what it looks like underneath this flying disc. We'll skip that next photograph because you've got number symbolism there. I like this photograph here. Go to 63.
Are there any pictures of these crafts with like any flags or anything? Like anybody holding a flag?
Good question.
You will get like the swastika or like the German Knights Cross. You will find that on these flying saucers. They put that on anything, anything German related. But when it comes to the flags, no, you would have thought, because flags were bloody everywhere.
Right.
I like this photograph because it shows more or less levitation wise this craft. This almost looked like the first photograph I showed you of the frill on top of that tripod.
Very similar. You can still
make out very similar. You can still make out the background a little bit, but again, it could be on a string. I'll be really interested to see if anyone can actually reproduce these photographs. Obviously, they were taken by film.
Well, you know what this looks like too, Nick? Is this if it was zoomed out and it was in the Andre Epps photo? This could have been that. It's kind of tilted to the side like that same photo. You know what I mean? Looks very, but this is what we're zoomed in. Same kind of craft, same kind of tilt. Interesting, yeah.
Oh, good point. Yeah, good point about that. But there's no gun turret underneath it, which is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little something, but who knows what the heck a lot of that is, Yeah, bump.
So that's it for the photographs there. So this just gives you the idea of what allegedly the anti-gravity side, which I've said this many times, if they would have had this technology, they would have won the war. And people says, well, they built these in the 40s, so they wouldn't put these mass production. That's a bloody lie, because I'm going to show you the blueprints, the alleged blueprints, and it said that the first anti-gravity model was built in 1939. And you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, if they built these in 1939, and it says in there in the document, so let's bring up Haunebu 1. I think it is. Yeah, go to 64. So let's move on to the alleged blueprints, because any documentaries on this subject, you always find this. Yeah, here we have it, guys. So this is the blueprints for the Vril and Haunebu flying saucers. So here we have, it hasn't got the bloody date. Oh, no, it's got it there. So if you look at the second craft here, it says Haunebu 2. If you zoom in, you will see November 1945. But the first,
I think I'm seeing 43. Maybe it's 45.
Yeah, 43.
Okay.
43, 40, that sort of time period.
Okay.
But the first Haunebu flying saucer was allegedly built in 1939. I don't think I've got the document here. It does say it on there. It does say 1939. But it wouldn't make sense. Why would they develop turbine-driven aircraft and then... but they already had anti-gravity cracked then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really makes no sense.
Yeah.
And if the Germans knew in 1944 to 45 that they were losing the war and they were putting every single advanced technology out there, they would have used this. It's got bloody gun turrets underneath it, laser weapon systems.
Yeah.
They would have used it, the occupation of the Soviet Union.
Right.
They would have used it. You can skip to 66. This one here is the Haunebu 3. So this was the last alleged craft that was gigantic. This is what Maria Orsic went into, and she went off to Aldebaran, to that planet system 68 million light years away. It's a bit of bullshit. They didn't build this craft. I'm sorry. I got to say this now. They did not build this craft. So all these documents here now are faked. These are fake These are fake documents, and there's a very clear sign of that because there is no replication of this anywhere. You can't find it. You've got the Vril craft here. I tell you what, let's go to my favorite number, 69. And I'm going to show you something called the Andrometer machine, which was a big cigar-shaped craft. Now, if you zoom in, Ice Cream, into the craft itself, you will actually see you've got in the middle of this, on the Andrometer, this is called the Andrometer machine. So inside here, you've got the Houndabu flying saucers. And on the side here, you've got the Vril craft. So this was like a cargo plane for the flying saucers.
Like a mothership, right?
Again, yeah, basically like a mothership.
Okay.
And so yeah, this is basically another fake thing that came out.
I'll talk like it's real, even though we know it's fake. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just another document going on at the time. So yeah. I take it pinch of salt, guys. Cigar shaped craft, we've been seeing them for decades, you know. So yeah, take it with a very, very pinch of salt. So that's the blueprints out the way, and let's get into I tell you what, go to photograph number 71.
71-2 or 71-1?
Oh, sorry, 71-1. Sorry.
Okay, no, perfect. Here we are.
Fantastic. Right, so this photograph here was taken in America in 1950s. I can't remember what the chap's name is. He took 2 photographs of this flying saucer. It was like the brim of a hat. Now, zoom in.
Okay.
Into the flying saucer and tell me what it looks like underneath it.
Right here, you're saying? This image?
Yeah, so you see the flying saucer.
Yeah.
It almost looks like there's a gun turret underneath.
There looks one there, one there, one there, one there. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I tell you what, pull up photograph 73 because you see a guy with a close-up photograph.
Yeah, I thought you meant like there was like an image kind of, it looks like an image is burnt in there a little bit, kind of interesting too. Yeah, here's 73. Boom.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so if you zoom into the flying saucer, this guy presented this.
It's like the same image.
Photograph here. Yeah, it's the same photograph, but zoomed in. But you can clearly see it looks like it's got a gun turret underneath it. And this photograph was taken in the 50s in America. So again, the Houndabu flying saucers. Did they develop it? I keep on saying this. I wouldn't be surprised if they did some experimentation in anti-gravity. But at the same time, it's very unlikely because the only thing that was anti-gravity was the Bell project. So I think we should go into that, should we?
Well, I'll tell you, Stuart Nixon, he looks pretty serious right there. He's, I'm telling you, it's real.
Yeah.
Really?
Listen to me now. Yeah, he really looks serious. What's the next image?
74. Let's bring out 74.
Okay.
So yeah, on Alien Addict yesterday, you had Ice Cream on with Alien Scientist and Ollie, and it was fascinating.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fascinating. So yeah, we alluded to the Bell project.
Yeah, this is the big one.
This is a big one. I haven't got my head wrapped around this at all. So the idea is what this device was, and there's more documents to prove that this device, they actually did create it. Torsion physics of mercury. So the Bell device was tested around about 43, 44, obviously at the end of the war as well. And this device, what it is, this device was shaped as a bell. It was about 9 feet in diameter and it was about 15 feet high. And inside the bell were 2 drums placed on top of each other. And inside this drum were a cherry red liquid described as a very thick substance, almost like semen, I would describe it, or like honey. So though I said semen, I was stupid. That's very childish of me. And what they were doing is that they were spinning. So these 2 drums with the mercury, with the liquid, they would spin one way and then they would spin the other way. So it was counter-rotating against each other.
Right.
And what happened, they were pumping this device with globs of electricity, enough voltage to actually power Berlin. We know that because the facility that was tested is a power plant. So they was pumping this with globs of electricity, and the document suggests loosely that the device literally levitated. It would glow a very blue, purpley sort of color,
Yeah.
and it would basically lifted up and lifted down. Igor Wachowski's book, got it here, called "The Truth of the Wunderwaffle." Got waffle again on it. It's got waffle there. Damn it, waffles now. So yeah, get this book because Igor Wachowski, he's done fantastic research into the Bell Project. He's the one that really blew the story up. And it really came from a Polish wartime trial from a person named Jakob Sporenberg, who was responsible for the execution of 60 scientists who was part of the Bell Project. And when he was in Poland after the war, he wouldn't really speak, because he was part of this project. And eventually he wrote an affidavit, which is basically a personal statement saying they worked on this device, which was basically the Bell Project. We haven't seen the affidavit, we haven't seen the details, but Igor Wachowski has done, and he's just alluding some sort of details into the book. I would love to see this affidavit because I'd love to know what this device was. It was tested underground first. We mentioned that yesterday on Alien Addict. It was in a room with ceramic bricks. They tested it with plant life and stuff like that. When they turned the device on, the plants will almost like deteriorate, turn like a gray, almost like, and then eventually into a powder substance. Allegedly, 7 scientists had background radiation because of the device when it was first tested. So they tested it on materials and stuff like that, even like with metal, when they found out that metal would change the way of its structural compound. It was very, very strange. And this is documents to suggest, not alludes into the Bell, but alludes to some sort of experiment being taking place. They then bring it outside where it was allegedly tested at the Henge. Should we bring up 76? Because this is where the Henge is in Poland. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, I remember this from yesterday too. We were kind of touching on this yesterday too. Yep, there it is.
So this is what Igor Wachowski says the device was tested. Now, this Henge here, or people say it was a water tower, which is the main debunked theory behind it. But what's interesting about this this structure here is that underneath it is a massive tunnel system. If you Google it, it is ginormous. And they found these huge, thick cables that go all the way around in a circle around the Henge bit. And what it was doing, it looks like it was pumping globs of electricity into these pillars. So whatever was in the middle, and we know something was in the middle because someone did a background test, a radiation test, and they found it was very high. Wow. And I forgot to mention that yesterday. So it looks like some sort of device was placed in the middle here to test it, more or less like the Bell. And there is a statement from Polish wartime prisoners of war saying that they saw a bluish purple glow near this area. Alludes to the Bell.
Right.
Yeah, it's the Bell Project is it needs like at least 5 episodes alone. It is ridiculous because I really want to get into the actual physics of it. I want to get Joseph P. Farrell. He's written 2 books on the subject here. It's called, one of them here is called Reich of the Black Sun, and the other one here is called the SS Brotherhood of the Bell, which talks about the Nazi connections and the secret technologies. Immensely fascinating book. So Joseph P. Farrell, he sort of broke down the device itself, and they said they did test it because there are documents that Igor Wachowski's put in his book that says they definitely tried to some sort of prototype, but you couldn't fly the bloody thing. Like the History Channel will say, "Oh, it did fantastic maneuvers."
I believe it. Yeah,
it's just absolute load of rubbish. Ignore the History Channel. They've gone right downhill, in my opinion. But again, this is what.
Hey, come on! They're just trying to make some money. Leave them alone.
No, they just spoiled it for me. They absolutely spoiled it for me. When they found out that triangle craft that was obviously fake on that bloody platform. I thought, that was absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you could remember that photograph.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the Bell Project, it requires so much research into it. I only scrapped the surface of it because I'm working my way up to it.
Absolutely.
But there is more evidence to suggest that they were working on this device as an experiment. not time travel, nothing like that. I think this was a new way of propulsion system, a new way of cracking gravity. This is my opinion of it. So when we talk about anti-gravity, we are talking about the bell because that is more alluded to. The documents suggest that they were working with this, and this is what it did. It basically lifted up and it went down. It didn't fly around everywhere. So yeah, the Bell project. Later on in episodes, I will go into it on a more detail. But yeah, did I bring up the photograph of the Bell? Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's leave it for that for the Bell. And move on to what really happened after the war.
Cool.
Now, I bought this book. Now, also, you were alluding to the scientist. What happened to the scientist after the war? They must have went somewhere. A lot of them went to obviously America over Operation Paperclip. The Russians had them as well. Also, some of the British had them. Some of the scientists. Obviously, a lot of escapees into Latin America, Spain, Italy.
Yeah.
But I bought this book here called Secret Projects Flying Saucers Aircraft. And this is immensely fascinating because it has little tic-tac vehicles that NASA was creating back in the 60s, which I'll show you in a minute.
Sure.
Let's bring up the Avro car. So bring up photograph 80. So this is moving away from the Nazi flying saucers, but the scientists were allegedly involved were working on these aircraft. Now, can you remember this aircraft, which was created in the early 50s? Was it late 50s, early 50s? So it's called the Avro car, was created in Canada. Now, Richard Mithey, he was part of the flying saucer turbine-driven aircraft project. He was part of this project. That makes no bloody sense because I'm going to explain something now. This aircraft was put out there to say to the American public and the world, oh, UFOs, they're not man-made. Don't worry about that, because that was the part of whether or not the Americans had these aircraft. So this was put out there to say to the people, oh, yeah, these things don't fly. Bring up 81, because you're going to see this. Basically, what the Avro car did.
This is very interesting here. Now, it says U.S. Air Force and U.S. Army, and we got like a little anchor there for like the Navy. Why do we have so many different?
Yeah,
it's so interesting. There's tons of stuff.
It's almost like a contribution of
it's like they all worked it together. Correct. Yeah. What's the next one?
Yeah. 81. So this is going to if you type in Avro car, you can see this thing as it's in flight. It's just bobbing up and down. It's very unstable. This is what I mean about the turbine-driven aircraft that was created in the 40s, allegedly. It must be very unstable, because if you see how that thing works, you got a fan in the middle with the cockpit on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
which kind of makes no sense. But the fan is not enough to actually propel the craft up. It's not going to be taken off. It literally just bobbed up and down. That is not the Avro car, which I found out. Would you like to know what the actual Avro car is supposed to look like?
Absolutely.
Go to photograph 82, because I'm going to show you what people don't want you to fucking know about these aircraft. I couldn't believe it when I was looking through these books. I thought, hold on a minute, right? That's what it's supposed to look like.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely different. This is a completely different concept. This was using jets.
Wow.
To propel this craft forward. This was from the book here. And there's some crazy disk-shaped aircraft in here. But so this is what the Avro car was supposed to look like. It was supposed to fly and not bob up and down like a bloody slinky, you know what I mean? So yeah, this was if the Americans were to put this into production, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you bear in mind, this is 1950s, and there were a lot of UFO reports, especially in America, especially Texas as well, of flying saucers, especially at that time period. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did build something like that. But the original Avro car, the donut-shaped device, that was designed, my opinion, to say to the public, yeah, these things don't fly. Don't worry about it. Move on and all that. But that's the actual Avro car, completely different. If you put in 84,
all right.
This is just an artist's impression of the flyable Avro car.
That's a cool image here, definitely. This is interesting.
Yeah. So the idea is that you're going to cut through aircraft.
Oh, wow.
Basically. So, yeah. That's it. That is That's what these disc shapes look like. So it's a completely different concept to the one we've to the public knowledge. But there's actual pamphlets from America, from military complex of this same craft. This exactly same craft, and this is 50s for Christ's sake. We're far beyond that technology now. We haven't seen that technology, so it's definitely out there.
Well, wow,
so
this
imagine how far the
yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. This is kind of interesting too. It kind of reminds me of the guy's hat in Mortal Kombat where it slides through. It cuts. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what they're showing here, right? That this is like supposed to be a blade or something. You could fly through the craft. I'm guessing, like.
Some sort of advanced weaponry system.
Yeah, some kind of system. Yeah.
So this is the Avrocar. This is what it's supposed to look like. The Americans did also develop disc-shaped aircraft. This is the last photo. If you'll be so happy to know, Ice Cream, this would be the last photo.
No, this is awesome. This has been great, dude.
Yeah. Photograph 85. So let's put the last one up. And
all right, 85.
Allegedly built.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. We're right at 1 hour 52. You've done an incredible job at keeping this at 2 hours, man. Like
that's
good
cool,
Lord.
Man.
Yeah, this is a cool photo too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not a real photograph. This is just an artist's impression. But this guy who wrote this book, I showed you here, he's gone into the archive and really dug up, disc-shaped aircraft. He's traced back disc-shaped aircraft back to the 17th century and 18th century. It's gone like way, way far back. But this is what the Americans were dealing with. They did deal with disc-shaped objects, and that's just one of many that they were allegedly producing at the time,
right.
as just like an experiment to see whether or not these disc-shaped objects are capable of flying. But we're now with triangle craft now, which sounds more aerobatic, more stable than a flying saucer. That's my opinion, really. But speaking of Tic Tacs, this was taken an artist impression. They built this in early 60s.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's crazy looking.
So it was like a Tic Tac sort of thing. Not only that, I'm going to show you something now. I firmly believe that NASA has aircraft they can take off from the ground and go up into the atmosphere in orbit, and then take off from another craft into the moon. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then this guy
let me switch over. I'll try to get us a little bit bigger on the screen so everybody can see you. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries.
A little bit bigger.
So see that there? So that is almost like a docking bay. So what's the other photograph on it? Yeah, so this is from NASA from the 70s, mind. This is the 70s. So the idea, they'll fly up into the orbit, and what will happen is that they will shoot off in another craft to the moon or to orbit something else. So you can scrap the whole idea of rockets. If Werner von Braun was alive today, he would be laughing at us. He would be laughing. So what are you bloody doing? We're 60 years. We should be more advanced. So they've got craft out there that can absolutely launch from the ground, not say rockets, but literally fly up and then dock from another station. And I always said they've always got bases on the moon. I think they've been in the moon, back and forth. In my opinion, that's just my.
I mean, it's
my opinion on
it's
that.
a very practical system to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I would agree. I'm sure they have something.
But we're given the illusion of we can only use rockets to go up. I mean, how bloody unreliable these things are. It's bloody. It's World War II technology, and we're still using it, So that's it, guys. That is the research, a very small amount of research that I've done to bring into the podcast. So
incredible,
hopefully, hopefully it made things more clear for your listeners to. And I would say, if you're listening, watch this show, because I think it's worth to understand where we're coming from. It's not a clear-cut conspiracy. In a lot of things don't make sense, but my job is to put the puzzle pieces together and say, right, this makes sense, this don't, this is bullshit. That is my, job, but it's my hobby. I get enjoyment out of it. This is what I do. I wouldn't be buying all these books and doing hardcore research because not a lot of people do it. And the fact is, the more I go onto the internet and type in Nazi flying saucers, the more shit that comes up. No one knows what they're talking about, and you're getting people that are pushing different stories, mixing stories up. Like I said, like with this, Maria Orsic, who doesn't exist, were given Nikola Tesla blueprints and stuff like that. And you've got fake shit like that. That's what she created. Literally, that's what she gave to Nikola Tesla. And you're thinking, I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that. So you have people who are just trying to make money out of conspiracy, hence the Vril Project, Maria Orsic, the Vril Society, the Hownaboot Flying Saucers. It's a fun conspiracy. It's great to look into, but in conclusion-wise, let's make a conclusion. I would say they built Foo Fighters. I can't prove it. I'll say these were German probes. That's my opinion. I do believe there are balls of light. We have balls of light for decades now. But these German technology probes, I think they did build it. I think they built the turbine-driven, piston-driven aircraft, because that sounds more likely they would do that. The anti-gravity side, the Hownaboot, the Vril Flying Saucers, the Maria Orsic, they don't exist. And I certainly don't believe the Vril Society don't exist either, because there's no evidence for it. It's zilch, absolutely nothing, just stories made up by neo-Nazis. And if you take the time out and actually do the research, you go, oh, yeah, this is just stories that were made up to sell books, unfortunately, because this predates the internet, you see. Again, the Bell Project, I believe they did test that because there are documents to suggest they did work on some sort of device itself. And from that, where did the scientists go at the end of the war? Who knows? Probably to further advance aircraft in America or Russia or wherever they may be. So that's the conclusion for today's show.
Dude, I'm blown away.
Cheers, man.
No, I'm serious. When your first video that you put on your channel is very entertaining by itself. I mean, I think it was like 12 or 13 minutes long. I mean, anyone who's watched this whole thing or has been sitting here now, guys, how could you not be excited for his next videos, right, this series? I mean, my goodness, man. Like I thought you kind of knew this stuff. No, you really, really know this stuff. It's not a game. Like, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. I've never seen anyone go over this stuff like that. And I mean, to be able to go through those images and have all that timed out and detail the whole way through names, dates, everything, man, I'm fucking impressed. And I just am really, really happy to have you, man. I mean, I guess the only question, because I had like 18 questions, and I don't know if I don't recall touching on this throughout the process, but how do you think, would it be possible to fund this kind of stuff? You know, when we talk about this whole Vril stuff and all this stuff being fake and everything like that, it's just like they're funding a war, you know? And then how would they have the money to also fund all this other stuff at the same time? I mean, it's such a stopping point for me for one to believe anything that's far when it comes to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would check out a conspiracy theory lady called Mae Brussels. Have you ever heard of her? She died of she deals with the JFK assassination. She's done amazing work into the connection of the Nazis and JFK assassinations. Where the Germans went into, where the top SS people went into the intelligence agency for America, and she said, "Don't quote me on this one. The amount of money that went missing out of the German Reichstag in Berlin was hundreds of millions. In today's money, it will be about 250 billion.
Wow.
Money that went missing.
Okay.
And it went practically everywhere. It went, God knows where the money went. It must, I mean, you can look at Hans Kammler, who was head of the top secret programs for the Germans. You had Martin Bormann as well, the head of the Nazi party. These people went missing and never found ever again in the war. So whether or not they'd taken that money or the Americans went in, but it was actually in the Guinness Book of Records for the most money stolen out of the Reichstag. It's 250 billion. So they had the resources. The Germans put in any sort of resources, you know, for them to win the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, well, they did everything they could for science too to understand things. I mean, horrific stuff. I mean, as we all know. Yeah. I mean, Frenchie, did you have anything? I mean, gosh, he covered like everything I wanted to know.
No, I'm just like sitting here absorbing everything.
I know.
So interested.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, at least I enjoy my research. I take my research very seriously. It's not like it's like a game or anything like that. I've always loved UFOs, and especially when it comes to Nancy flying saucers. It's such a bizarre subject, and I just get enjoyment out of it, because like not a lot of people do what I do. I'm not saying that
Oh, that's for sure. No, that's pretty clear now. Yeah, that not many do.
Yeah, what I mean,
Yeah.
So I go into the nitty gritty, and what I've done is try to put things in a chronological order to say, right, we've got a timeline here. We could look through things, go through the details and everything. So this is just a loot into the research that I've done. So hopefully it makes all sense. Hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever consider, I know you're doing the whole video series on your channel, which guys, the channel is linked below. Please do yourself a good service and go over there and show support for him. I mean, obviously the guy's put in a lot of work. Have you ever thought about doing a documentary? I mean, breaking things out, maybe a long term from now?
A possibility, yeah. Unfortunately, Ice Cream, people's got very short attention spans these days. So what I describe to do is make short videos, like 10, 50 minutes max, so I don't lose the audience. Possibly once I get all the videos up and running, like I've got my series, then I could probably work into a documentary. So I got something to work by. But I'm so new to this. I come to editing and stuff like that. I write a script out so everything's nice and clear cut. I'm also battling a full-time job as well. So it's going to take me time to read through these books and get the information. So just bear by with me. But yeah, the next episode is going to be interesting. But yeah, the
Oh, did we lose him?
documentary is very interesting.
Okay, you're back.
I'm looking into that.
God, right. We had him perfect the whole time. I can't even complain. Like, I can't even complain. It's incredible. Nick, I think we might have lost you. You froze up a little bit. We'll get you.
Now? We'll get
yeah. Okay, you're back. You're back. Well, now you're going away again. That's how it works. Every time I say you're back, you're gonna go away again. That's the way it's just the way the internet works.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, I mean, I Nick, I can't thank you enough, man. I had no idea what you were bringing here today, and I'm super. I feel fortunate, French. I mean, my God, dude. I mean, to have this on our channel, to have you as a guest here, as our third guest, and you're blowing everybody out here.
Yeah,
I mean, it's incredible. Not to get too mushy, but I mean, hey, what needs to be said. It's impressive, man. I'm impressed without a doubt. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff coming from them. We've went 2 hours tonight that we had to go extra. I mean, there's no way we couldn't at that point. But I guess we should make this announcement now, and I'll do a little bit of announcement video later because I don't think everybody's obviously here. Next week I am going out of town, so there will be no episode next week of Terrestrial Material. No Saturday, no Sunday, no anything. As I mentioned before, this is our 3-month anniversary, and so we're actually going to take a little bit of a 1 week off, a little 90 days. I have a wedding anniversary, so we're going to go up north where I'm at and spend some time and spend the weekend. So, but we'll be coming back the following week without a doubt, and we'll be going back to Saturday at 7. Of course, the last 2 guests that we've had are from UK, so I mean, we want to accommodate them, and so we go a little bit earlier. And boy, God, that's been worth it. Jeez Louise. Yeah, I mean, incredible night. Thank you guys, everyone, for coming. Raging Against Machine, Sapphire, very cool. Jeff Garvey. Every time I do this, I start Nick in French, and then I'm gonna miss somebody. David Rourke's in the chat. Alien Ida coming tonight. Ben Yorkshire, you Euphonian, Donovan, all you guys, man. It's really cool to see support. Please do make sure to like, share, subscribe to the show. I have a feeling this show is going to be very popular, man. I just do. If we get the sharing, we get the moving, how would you not want to watch this if you're interested in this topic? So please do share it. He deserves it. Go to his channel. Have a great rest of your what's Saturday night? Yeah, so you're in the US. So you have a great time too, Nick. And we'll catch you guys on next week on the week after on Terrestrial Material. Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you.